We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined, as always, by Josh Bowe. And tonight is the kind of night where you question a lot. The Dallas Mavericks just lost to the Denver Nuggets, 118-99. Josh, how you doing?
I've yawned 3 times since I've joined our StreamYard live stream room, so that gives you any indication where I'm at, which is very funny because I think, not everyone is a fan of our podcast, and that's okay. You can't please everyone. That's part of the gig. We all understand, the people that do this kind of stuff. When you put yourself out there on the internet, not everyone's going to like you, and I understand that. I think one of the complaints from that sector is that sometimes I'm a little, at least with me, is I can be a little low energy. Well, I got nothing for y'all. I'm gonna be exactly what those criticisms are. I am the lowest energy to match what the Mavericks did tonight.
Well, the Mavericks came out and played with low energy, and you wonder, I think this is game 40. Yeah, that's right. Game 40. One game away from the halfway point of the season. And, you can't help but wonder over the long haul if this game is going to be somehow an inflection point, a point where Dallas looks back and says, all right, this is when things were really bleak. This is where we really got embarrassed and we had to figure out what to do next. And this is where things changed. You wonder, because this game, the Mavericks were beat from the opening tip, and there's really not much to say because, Luka Doncic was out. Kyrie Irving returned. Kyrie Irving returning is ostensibly a good thing on his face, though he looked bad.
He looked like someone that missed about a week and a half with issue, in his first game back.
11 points, 4 of 18 shooting, 4 steals, which is interesting. He faced some contact.
He gets a pass.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at him at all. I'm not mad. I'm earnestly not mad.
Really?
Yeah, because this is just one of the. when you play a team like the Nuggets, when you play any team on an NBA schedule 2 times in a row, you're not gonna it's increasingly difficult to beat them. And the Mavericks blew their chance last game. I saw somebody post, I saw this loss a mile away. So did I. I didn't expect them to win. I kind of thought they were going to get boat raced. I had no idea about Jamal Murray coming out and playing like playoff Jamal Murray. He torched the Mavericks for 45 points on 26 shots. But this is the second game in a row where Dallas looked like they had no idea what to do about any of what Denver was doing. We got to also mention Derek Lively went down with an ankle sprain. His style of play is just going to result in him being injury adjacent. I don't want to say injury prone. Tim Cato put out some nerdy ass tweet where he's like, I'm not willing to, and he's my friend, so I'll make fun of him. It's fine. He's like, I'm not willing to render a judgment on him. And it's like, well, he's missed 25% of the games that he's eligible to play. Like, that's not great. But so those two, Kyrie's back, Kyrie coming back, Lively injured again. Dallas just had no heart, and that's kind of the part that I think if you're looking to be a super downer, that would be the take.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's not that they lost big, because honestly, the second half, they did outscore Denver in the second half, and I know Denver kind of let their foot off the gas. But if they had shown a little bit more of what they did in the second half and the first half, and still lost by like 15 or 20, I think you can kind of take this game and just leave it be as it is. They lost to a full strength, pretty much full strength Denver Nuggets team who's really good without Luka, and basically without, like you said, without Lively, who's probably the second or third most important player on the team. He only played 4 minutes. The fact that he was ruled out so quickly with an ankle sprain, which is an injury that, like, if it's not too bad, you can go back in, especially if you still got the adrenaline, like we've seen ankles in basketball. Like that's an injury that's like, if it's, you can return from. That's not like a hamstring strain or a calf strain where it's like, okay, you're done. Put you in ice so you're healthy. The fact that he was ruled out that quickly after the game, after injuring it 4 minutes in, like, he's probably not going to play tomorrow, and
right.
Hopefully he comes back the next game after that.
Go
ahead. No, I was just gonna say, like, to me, like I said, if they lost this game by 15 or 20, but they kind of showed some signs of life. I mean, when you think about it, they got embarrassed. You talked about it. The last game, they got embarrassed from like after the first quarter through the end of the game. I remember we talked about that. Then they, you would think that they would come out with, even if they don't have the horses to win the game, you think they would come out and at least do something. And they got their asses kicked from opening tip to halftime. I mean, the last, going into halftime of this game, the last 5 quarters they'd played, which is all against this Nuggets team since they played them on Sunday. So basically, from the first quarter Sunday to halftime tonight, the Mavericks were outscored in 5 quarters, 169 to 114. Like that, there's getting boat raced, there's getting beat, and then there's getting, flat out just getting your ass whipped. I don't know if you can make a differentiation, but to me, it was just like there was just a disconnectedness and a give up in that first half, which I hadn't really seen all season. And they've been going through adversity, so they were maybe due for a letdown kind of performance because they really hadn't shown it yet when they had all rights to do it in maybe the last 5 or so games without Luka. But I mean, they were walking around the spots. They were getting beat on the boards without boxing out, which I know they have been kind of doing that all the time. They were walking it up and taking 0 pass possession jumpers. Like, again, I feel like there's a difference between losing badly and then kind of what they did in the first half tonight, that was kind of like the bad part.
Well,
in the second half, they at least showed some pride.
You're seeing some inklings of it in our chat if you're paying attention at all. This is the game where the fan base and my social media mentions really pivoted hard towards kid frustration. And the Mavs
We didn't do anything in the first.
Well, the Pod Maverick official position on Jason Kidd, and I think I speak for Josh in this regard,
yes,
is it's very difficult for us to say anything that matters because he isn't going anywhere. So it feels like a fruitless conversation to talk about him.
We can criticize him.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like fire Jade, like that's just
Not happening.
Yeah, that's a
we're far off from that point. How's that?
Yeah.
He would have to lose the team, and I don't think that's where we are with him. He is simply not a motivational coach. He's not the kind of guy to call a timeout and really get into his team in a real way. If you read Miran Fader's book on Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's kind of a sociopath. He's a manipulator. But he's not a motivator. And I earnestly think with the kind of team that we have, that's probably for the best. The Mavericks are a bunch of guys that are, the only guys that are young are Hardy and Lively and Omax. And Lively's the starter, and he's not really worried about his role. Like there's manipulation of emotions and things like that and rah-rah stuff. Like you've got to save that shit for when it really fucking matters.
Right. That's why he's so good he has such great relationships with all the stars. Like LeBron loved him. Giannis likes him. Man, who else? Yeah. I guess he didn't really have any stars in Brooklyn. Yeah, LeBron in LA. I mean, Kyrie. I mean, that's why he's gelled so well with Luke and Kyrie.
Yeah,
different skill sets. So like you've got a coach that can do that. Because Rick Carlisle famously could not do that. And then you got coaches that are more suited for the in-game adjustments, kind of on the fly. And he seems to kind of wait to do that in the playoffs, which is take that for what you will. But I don't blame fans for being frustrated seeing Jamal Murray take basically the same types of shots the entire first half and make all of them against the same coverage.
Yep.
And they didn't really change their coverage till halftime. By that point, the game's over. I don't think they doubled him. The only thing they did in the first half was they changed who was guarding him. But in terms of
talk about that as to why that matters, because I actually think that's a basketball take that's worthy of pushing.
What about who's guarding him?
Yeah, and why it mattered.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit on Twitter. Is that they tried to put, they had a guard on him, and then they had to put PJ on him. I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but when they had to put PJ on him, PJ is one of their best rim protectors, shot blockers, weak side help defenders. You put him on Murray because you don't have any guard that can hang with him, and I understand why. PJ has been a great defender for them for 2 years now. But you're taking him away from the basket because he has to stay on Murray on the perimeter. And when he was on Murray, you saw the Mavericks paint defense start to get more compromised. Backdoor cuts, closeouts, driving kicks against the other way. And it just made it very difficult because they just had no one they really felt like they could trust to put on Murray besides PJ. And now PJ's on Murray, and you've got no one to help on the help side at the rim and in the paint. And there was no Lively. So that it just compounded things a bunch. And this was definitely a game where you felt the absence of Derek Jones Jr. on the roster. Not to like relitigate that whole conversation, but It was just, they could have really used, Grimes had a bad game. They could have really used a good Grimes game, and no one really had an answer for him. And I mean, even PJ was on him. It's not like he still scored on PJ a few times. So there's really nothing they could do, but it got to the point where it was like, okay, you just have to make him pass. Cause he's going to make whatever you throw at him one-on-one. And they didn't really make him do that until the second half. And by then the game was over.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, it really was over. The Mavericks were down 30 points repeatedly in this sort of thing. And so it's very difficult to talk about anything big specific to this game because the Mavericks sort of laid down and there wasn't much to be done. I don't lightly say that they quit, but they quit. And it's on to the next one to a certain degree. I'm seeing some interesting takes in the comments about how, this looks like a team that's been told that there's going to be a shakeup coming. I don't know if I agree with that.
This looks like a team that is tired of being injured.
It is
and
a
dealing
team
with
in
that.
need of a shakeup. Like, I don't disagree with that, but I just think, like, you go look at where the Mavericks schedule wise is and what they've done. Like, they've played just over 100 minutes this season with their preferred lineup. Okay.
Yeah.
And so to do some math here for how many minutes has been, the Mavericks have played 40 games times 48 minutes. There have been, they've played over 1,900 minutes of basketball as a team. They have played 1/19 of their season with their preferred lineup.
Right.
So it's just,
there's only so much you could do, right?
mm-hmm.
And they look like a team that's like sick and tired of being sick and tired. Especially like when Lively got hurt. I wondered, that just felt like there was a collective again. Like,
yeah,
we gotta go through this shit again. Like, how many times can you say next man up before it's even all-star break? Like, eventually that message wears a little thin. Like, it's human nature, right?
Right. Well, and where we're at now is, like, there was a take, and he won't hear this, but in case he does, our former colleague Austin was so high on how Hardy was playing before the Denver game, which quite reasonably, Hardy was coming off a season high, that he said he didn't know if there were minutes for Exum. And it's like, this team needs Exum. Like, they need injections of the players that were built to be in the top 10 of the roster, because it's like, you go look at the depth chart here, and, at best, some of these guys, like even Maxi Kleber was like a kind of a ninth man to a degree, and he's having to be probably the second guy off the bench a lot of these games.
He started the second half.
Yeah. So it's, and guys, we all know Gafford's been horrible. I don't even know what to say.
We need to have a Gafford conversation.
Why don't we have a Gafford conversation? Because you actually wrote about this for D Magazine today. So
it's very, very funny that the thing that got published this morning was basically, hey, Gafford's been pretty ineffective and Lively can't stay on the floor. And then 12 hours later, Lively gets injured 4 minutes into a game, and Gafford has probably his worst game of the season.
Which was funny because he was also the team's high scorer tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that was all the fakest
Garbage,
13 points
garbage,
you will ever see in your entire life. Shout out to his 3 defensive rebounds in 19 minutes. I mean, that's like right at his career average. The dude just cannot defensive rebound. And to be fair, Lively can't really defensive rebound either. So that's just a problem for their bigs. But I mean, I don't know. And again, like we've talked about how the fan part of me has been kind of sucked out of my soul over the last 5 to 6 years. Even with that, do you remember a more disheartening, like when was the last time you'd seen such a disheartening stretch of Mavericks basketball than that stretch where DeAndre Jordan actually like put Lively like in timeout? Ooh. DeAndre Jordan in the year 2025 manhandling Daniel Gafford. Like that stretch where I think Jordan had 6 points, had a couple offensive rebounds, had a dunk on Gafford in the first half. Like that was the most disheartening stretch of Mavs basketball I'd seen since I think the 2023 season when they lost.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually looking at those games right now.
Like just emotionally how it felt. Like that stretch felt worse than anything I could remember since that moment.
Oh yeah, because it's like there was a series of games, and everybody will that's a hardcore Mavs fan will remember that they got a lot of shit for effectively throwing the Chicago and San Antonio game, but they lost so many games in March, and like the games they were trying to win. So like there's a back-to-back stretch here that's actually very similar. They played at Memphis and then versus Memphis, where they lost in Memphis, and it put them dead at 500 to go. It was 112-108. Then they lost 2 days later in Dallas against Memphis, where they were 104 to 88. Jaden Hardy scored his career high that game. Like that was when it was like that. I remember all this stretch of stuff where it's like things were super bleak. They had to beat San Antonio in overtime. Christian Wood was a high scorer. Like there was some bad shit going on this season, but it's like I don't really remember a lot of quit in the Mavericks in that season. What I remember is they simply couldn't stop anyone. Yeah.
That was what was funny about that season was like they're playing hard. That's why kids stayed. I mean, that's why, we were talking about, we're like, this is maybe one of the most disappointing NBA seasons of all time when you consider how good Luka was that season and his age and his trajectory. I even wrote a column about it. Like, literally, this has never happened to a player as good as Luka at his age. And I was like, how does it, in the NBA where coach of the years get fired 12 months after winning the award, how does kids survive that? And he never lost the locker room. Like, they still played hard. They were just bad. They were genuinely that bad. They couldn't win without making a billion 3-pointers that year. But that Gafford DeAndre Jordan stretch in the first half, that was a low, that felt like kind of like a low point. I mean, that is the nadir of his season. He hasn't been that bad. Like, I made a comment about how that moment felt pretty emblematic of his season so far. And of course people were like, oh, what are you talking about? He's not that bad. Just a little inconsistent. I'm like, okay, I get it. But he was he was such a positive for them after the trade deadline last season to now being a pretty clear negative that it's almost kind of unfathomable the turnaround. And they've done it, and it's happening even with him on the bench. Like, I would get it if he was still starting and he was getting a little overexposed against starters, but he's been coming off the bench for a while now, and it's not getting better. And his role is supposed to be feasting on these backup lineups. Like, my friend, if you cannot get the best of DeAndre Jordan in 2025, like, what are we doing here? Like, that's got to be do some soul searching, looking in the mirror type shit, right? Like, like, what are we like? I don't know. I don't know if that's, to me, I think that's kind of where the emotional side of this game is coming from, instead of like, what do you expect? Like, because that was bad. I don't know if you thought that part was really bad.
No, I do. I don't know where you go from here, because the answers are, you build the team a certain way, then when the engine isn't there, how long do you expect it to last? And I've I don't know. I over-index my social media mentions, but the people there were people in the Mavericks have lost 4 winnable games in their recent run. They also won a game against the Lakers that maybe they went in as
probably shouldn't have won that game.
That they technically shouldn't have won. Okay, but let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at what's upcoming here. They play the Pelicans tomorrow night. Pelicans are finally kind of healthy. That should be an alarm bell. Friday they play the Thunder. Monday they play Charlotte. Oh my God, an 11 a.m. game.
Yeah, MLK Day, right?
I fucking work MLK. Sorry, whatever. Somebody else has got to figure that shit out. But like an 11 a.m. game, which is going to be a weird game on MLK Day against Charlotte, who is not bad. Let me see where they are.
They're pretty bad.
Okay, you're right. 8-28. But like they're the kind of team that would just piss.
They've got
off
guys.
Somehow.
They have guys that do stuff. They just don't win a lot of games.
Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Boston, Washington Wizards, New Orleans, Detroit, and Detroit is a shockingly competent basketball team.
Detroit is over 500. Detroit Pistons.
This is the run up to All-Star break. Cleveland, Sixers, Boston, Houston, Sacramento, Golden State, Miami. I see 2 clearly winnable games in that stretch.
If Luka doesn't come back. Right?
If Luka doesn't come back, that's right. Yeah. And I said this last game too, because maybe I should just reverse jinx this into hell, because I said after the last game, I was like, I just don't really see where they're getting wins. And then Kyrie comes back, and I have a lot of faith in Kyrie. I don't, he didn't look that good to me tonight, but I thought that was more rust than poor movement. So we'll see, but I don't really got a lot. I don't got a lot anymore. I mean, we've been talking for 25 minutes now, and
I don't want to make us talk for that much longer, but the only other conversation point I can think of, and it goes back to Gafford, is has this season for him so far done enough to you where you think he's not going to get traded this year, but has this season changed your thoughts on his future with the team going forward, because he is an unrestricted free agent?
Oh yeah, they're
in
going
the
to have
summer,
to move on from him.
The summer of 2026. So
Yep.
they've got this season and one more season. So he'll be an expiring $14 million contract next season. Do you think that, like, I mean, there's got to be some type of like evaluation here. Like, if he does not turn this around, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, Maxi Kleber is also expiring next year. Maxi Kleber will be on the Mavericks forever, along with Dwight Powell. I don't know, man. This is just kind of a dark point. Hopefully an inflection point. Hopefully a point where we can look back and go, God, man, remember when it was this bad? But, you know, they're 4 games away from 500. 4 games away. Yeah, and the chosen one, it says the Mavs will owe a pick swap in 2028. I mean, look, like you always make trades with the forward thing. Like the trade looked good last year. They got to finals. You know? They got to finals. Like there's things they can do differently. I mean, again, I keep getting mentions like, oh, the Mavericks going to tank. And I'm like, no, the Mavericks aren't going to tank. Are they going to lose? That's yes. They're going to lose. It's a different place. All right, let's get going. We'll be back tomorrow night. It'll be a short, you know, if it's a good night tomorrow night, if the Mavericks play an interesting basketball game, I will try to host a group therapy or a Mavs party or something just to get back on that sort of schedule. But it's tough to talk about this team right now, is all.
I'm shocked we went 26 minutes tonight, to be honest with you.
All right, everybody, be good. Have a good rest of your week. I guess tomorrow's already
Wednesday.
Already Wednesday. I can live with that. All right, everyone, be good. Go Mavs.